Well, we're back.
All right. Okay.
And another episode, and we're sitting in front of. We've just had back-to-back fucking stunners as well.
We have.
The two most handsome dudes in the world back-to-back on the podcast, and it's kind of putting us to shame. Over
This
here
man's
on the other
rolling up
side.
in a goddamn suit.
I know this motherfucker is in a suit. A massive welcome. Thanks for coming on, Stephen
Thank you for having
Legierski.
me. Thank you for chasing me down the last couple of months.
Yeah, I know. Fucking so we've had to rebook you because tell us first and foremost what you did to your neck and back.
Oh, I have no idea. I just was walking around like a robot for a few minutes there, and it was just in a bit of pain. I was struggling to get in and out of bed and that sort of stuff, and just struggling to function as a normal human being. So I think my whole body just seized up, and I think sitting like this for any more longer than 20 minutes would probably put me in a bit of pain. And
But did you say, I think when you were calling me, you said that you already had hurt, your back was sore, and then you did something to fuck your neck up, and that ended up being worse?
Oh, so it was a double doozy.
Yeah, it was like, I was like, I don't know, I just woke up one day, my entire neck was just so stiff, and I was like, oh, this is crap, whatever, and I just keep going. People are like, oh, go see the doctor, get some painkillers, all that. It's like a typical male thing. Nah, just power through it, and it just like gradually got worse, and I think I just was trying to move something at work, and I remember just pinching my back and going, here we go, like, yeah, no worries. And I was walking around like an even older robot, like, starting to really just
dusty robot
full
this time.
decomposed spec.
Yeah.
And it was a crap 2 weeks. It's finally only just starting to get better, to be honest. My back's a lot better, but my neck is just still a bit stiff. Looking that way is a bit crap, but looking that way is pretty good. So my blind spot, I'm just pulling out in traffic, hoping for the best. So
Not turning that neck at all. Use that mirror.
mirror.
Well, it's good to have you on, man. We've again another mate of mine for many years. We were you're obviously in a suit, and as I mentioned before we got on air, you're the man that I met as a fucking teenager was a bit of a fucking loose cannon. So you've come a long way from that. But
I think everyone it starts off that way, don't we?
Yeah, well, that's right. Oh, I was a fucking idiot as well. I think about myself back in those days. But how was obviously one thing as much as I know a lot of people from there, but I was a Paralawi boy. What was fucking Parafield Gardens like as a fucking high school?
Oh man, it's a throwback. I can't even really remember. I just remember just being pretty cruisy. Try and get some of the schoolwork done, just hang out with mates all day. Kind of got paid from school allowance to be there, but I tried to produce a B and A here and there on the old report card, and at least attend half the year. Yeah, exactly right. So. No, it's not a bad school. I hear there's really good things in engineering programs and that sort of stuff there now, which would have been a lot better if back then. They've definitely upgraded. But I guess your atypical school, there's a bit of thuggery and your atypical stuff. A couple of altercations here and there. Nothing over the top, really.
Now we're going to get into your illustrious fighting career. But you started something early though. Because you were all, I remember people talk. There was some motherfuckers that were scared of you back in the day, right? So you already had some prowess of something even in high school, right? Is that correct?
I don't know. I think it's just the whole mentality of being a cool kid or some shit like that. I have no idea. I just thought, I'm kind of big and just wanted to lift weights and that'll do. And if anyone kind of wanted to fuck around a little bit.
Train anything when you were really young?
I started when I was young, and then I actually got taken out. This is back actually the Settlers Farm days. Mum took me out because I was getting into fights at school and that sort of stuff. So she took me out when I was like 6 or 7 years old, something stupid like that. Yeah. And then I think I started back at maybe 12 or 13 years old, and was a little bit more just I was just here for fitness. I was playing basketball, and I really enjoyed basketball, and we had a good team going and that sort of stuff. And I think old friends like Fidon and Megan and Jean, and sorry if I've forgotten anyone. Josh Sanders, there's an old name I haven't heard in a few minutes.
There's some blasts from the past.
So that was pretty cool. And I think once the team sort of broke up, and I was just lifting a lot of weights in between, I just had the old classic bench press in the carport, and
can't go wrong with bench press in the carport.
I just think I just had testosterone thrown through the veins, and I just got pretty beefy for a quick minute there, and I don't know. I think after basketball and I got back into kickboxing at about 18 or 19, I think I just started running everywhere and just became a bit of Forrest Gump action, and just get up 5Ks every morning. Got to the point where I was running 10Ks every morning, and
every morning.
Just enjoyed it. It was like this weird counteract to the old ADHD, and just I'd get up, typical scoop of pre-workout, back when the good stuff was actually pretty good.
We were talking about that last week as well.
Back when that stuff actually worked. And then I'd go for a run and come home all right, cool, off to work I go sort of thing. And I think there was a few minutes there where I think I was unemployed for about 2 fights. So I literally just concentrated on everything, on just training and fighting and being fit and whatnot. So eventually I had my first fight in, I think it was 2011.
So was it kickboxing?
Technically Muay Thai.
Oh, Muay Thai.
In the early stages, they did modified. So elbows weren't allowed, but knees to the head were okay and those sort of things. And then as I sort of progressed, I went to the full Thai, which is, knees and elbows and the whole works, the good stuff.
Yeah.
That's kind of always puzzled me because why elbows to be restricted and not knees when both are just as fucking...
I would rather be elbowed than kneed in the face. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know. I think that just the control aspect
not working again.
I think the control aspect over a knee to the head was probably a lot harder than elbowing somebody clear in the face.
Yeah.
Because if you got close enough, you could just elbow them. It's simple as that.
You got to be really close for an elbow, don't you?
Yeah, you pretty much do. Because basically, if you can elbow them, there's pretty good chance they can either elbow you or punch you in the face at the same time. Or you could just walk into a big knee right in the sternum, and that never really tickled much either too. So that kind of would put you on the ground pretty quickly. So I think elbows just put you in a position where you just don't do them just in case and that sort of stuff. And when you're sort of training modified Thai, you just didn't train elbows, so they didn't come naturally until later on anyway. And it's probably not a bad thing to have. I mean, if they're going to teach elbows like strictly, then maybe bring in things like knee pads and elbow pads and just make it a little bit softer, especially for juniors and that sort of stuff. I guess near the end of that career, I started to sort of realize things that brain damage is a thing.
Yeah. So did you ever get any kind of like concussion or anything like that?
No, absolutely. I probably got more concussions during the training stages than you would probably during the fights. I think during the fights, I only got like maybe 2 or 3 solid concussions. And I guess when you're training a lot, like at some point you train every single day, you run every single morning, and your body doesn't recover quite the same way. And things like you get a cop a good punch to the head, and surely enough, there's going to be things like inflammation, bleeds, those sort of things, and stuff that you're probably not aware of. And we fortunately the promoters like Ethan Shep at Knees of Fury, John Leondaris from the Jewel Master times, they actually paid for our CT scans.
Oh, no shit!
But you only have to do them every 3 years. I'm thinking, fuck, there's a lot of
That's
brain damage during the 3 years.
Hell.
And who actually goes and evaluates the different scans? I think I had over 8 or 9 years of actually competing, I think I only had like 3 or 4 scans. So I never even got to see them. So I can't even look at my brain and go, well, that's a fully 18 underdeveloped brain. And here's my 28-year-old brain. I'm going, even things like, I guess maybe, I think the year after I stopped fighting, I started getting things like migraines. And I don't know if it's maybe just as I clicked to the late 20s, early 30s, migraines were just a thing. My memory used to be spot on and perfect. Now I can barely remember names and faces. I always remember a face, but I can barely ever remember anyone's names, which is frustrating too.
Yeah, but in your field of work, you would probably come across a lot of names. So it would be like that's where it would be hard.
You get an open inspection if the house is half decent. So you get 60 groups come through, and you kind of look at somebody like, good to see you again. Do you mind if I grab your name again? Sort of thing. Try and get the number first and not auto-populate. Yeah. Cool, no worries. You didn't hear me say that. But yeah, those sort of things. But it's always good. Like I always remember their faces and go, we met before. I remember you, that sort of thing. I almost remember where we met and those sort of things. But would always kind of just forget their names and just certain other small things. Like my memory was getting like terrible in my 30s, which is weird because it was perfect in my early to mid 20s. Like I could just remember anything.
Yeah.
But as I hit 30, it was just
Yeah, right. And when was the last time you had a fight then?
I think 2018.
Yeah, I was going to say about 2018.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about 3 years ago now.
And you didn't get concussed in that fight?
No, but I did get my first cut.
Oh,
really?
Out of 15 fights, 1 cut.
1 cut.
That's pretty good.
Hey, not too bad.
That's all right.
No cauliflower, no broken nose, no split ribs.
Good.
Yeah.
Happy days.
Well, going back to the 2011 thing and the CTE stuff, because I want to talk to you about that for a second. But you think we weren't even talking about it really in 2011.
No.
And it's now something, because I'm a massive UFC fan, and I listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff like that about it as well. And one of the big revolutions in the last probably 2 years is some of the best fighters not sparring at all.
Correct.
They do not spar because they've realised that, like you said, the concussions and the whatever and the damage, because you fight sometimes, and if you're a good fighter where you absorb fuck all strikes and you're one of the best, like I'm thinking of Max Holloway as someone who has an insane output but has not really absorbed that many in a lot of his career. And part of his thing has been like, I haven't sparred for my last 4 fights.
Yep.
So he just trains and then fights.
Yeah, he just does all pad work, all bag work, all thing, and then just goes out and applies his craft. And he's one of the best, most proficient strikers in the history of the UFC. Yeah, right. And he hasn't sparred for fucking 3 years. And so he's basically said that and trying to get other people on board with the idea that you're shortening your career.
Yeah.
Because the problem is as well is that for him, or someone in the upper echelons where they always have the perfect training partner and and they spar at the right level to just get the work in.
Yeah.
But you look at anyone in the lower to mid tier, they get someone who's trying to prove themselves and they get KO'd by accident in a fucking sparring session.
Yeah.
The amount of the elite fighters that have been KO'd in the week before a fight and then gone on to fight because they need that check because that's getting them through to their next fucking fight. Yeah. And they go into a fight with a fucking concussion.
Yeah.
So all they get is a fucking touch and they fucking drop.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's just happening by the 100.
And they're layering it, they're layering it on top of each other, and it's just going to get fucking worse and worse.
Healthy. It's not.
And like it is, so that, the way that it's been explained is that it is important to spar when you are young in your career because that's the only way that you do get. You need to be able to learn how to take your hits and how to move in a fight
Correct
scenario.
Instincts, those sort of things. Absolutely. But 100% agree.
Once you get to a level that some of these guys are at, again, as soon as your career starts to get on a little bit, you got to try and dial that shit back because you've only got. I mean, a fighter's lifespan is one of the shortest in any career.
Very short.
Yeah. And you can make a lot of money in that time if you do well, but you can also fucking completely damage yourself for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
Do you think you'd ever go back to doing it again, or you're more like? Do you still train at all?
Oh, look, barely, to be honest, and I think that's probably one of my biggest frustrations is I barely get the time to do much at all. And I used to really enjoy running, and nowadays, if I went and took a couple of meters up the road, I'd probably pretty gassed in about half a kilometer and hate myself and probably end up just walking back. So
that dusty robot syndrome.
Big time. And I'm about 20 kilos heavier too, which doesn't help at all, especially on the knees.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. Like in the last maybe 4 or 5 fights, I reckon I did barely any sparring. Sometimes we'd go to a different gym and do some sparring, and some of those guys would go extremely hard, and some of those guys would barely even land a shot on you. And I just match their intensities. If they wanted to go hard, cool. They're giving it to me. I'll respect what they're doing and the way they do it, and happy to just match that intensity. And there are some guys that are they're straight away like, how hard do you want to go? I'm like, mate, you want to go 10%, you want to go 90%, I'm flexible. I don't mind. If you feel like you need to slow down in any way, shape or form, just let me know. Just if you want to go low, hard leg kicks, go for gold. Not a fuss with that. Like after years and years and stuff, you just get used to that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
but on the head, I'm always like, look, just be a bit more respectful of the head, especially. If somebody looks like they took a good punch or whatever, even if it's an accident, so you could just throw a jab and somebody kind of just steps into it, and that can just be a little bit like, oh, hold on a second. Just need to take 2 seconds, take 2 seconds, take a minute, take 2 minutes, take 3 minutes, take the night off. It's not worth the risk. It's honestly not. And I don't mind, what they did. But personally, I reckon for about 2 or 3 fights near the end there, I just did no sparring. I just did quality pad work with a trainer who kept me on my toes. And it worked in my well. I think if you watched any of my fights, you probably noticed that I'd probably had really good head movement or good footwork. Just didn't like being hit. Just not be there. Why be there?
Fighter.
Just very defensive and counter. That was just something.
Yeah.
I had the height, so it was easy for me to re-engage.
Well, it's best to attack when your opponent's attacking, really, isn't it?
Well, I mean, they leave themselves open, especially if they're trying to overreach. If they're shorter than me, then I just had this natural ability to just even out strength on a leverage point of view. You just wrap them up, do what you need to do. Even though I hated doing that sort of stuff, you probably see some of the fights and go, okay, he's throwing a couple of elbows, but it's really just K1 the entire time. And I copped a bit of backlash from that, and so be it. I just didn't like clinching. Man, everyone's all kind of sweaty and hairy.
I'm all about striking. I'm all about striking.
I like to put on. I'd rather lose a fight and be exciting than just end up being a bit of a clinch war and kind of wasting 10 minutes of people and like, hey guys, we're really amping up to see this fight, but you guys just clinch for 10 minutes. I don't know. I just find it like kind of like in UFC. As soon as it hits the ground, I respect it. I fully do. But I just probably go, can watch guys.
Exciting.
I mean,
when you see two very high level like jiu-jitsu practitioners, but someone just like an elite wrestler just wrestle fucking someone to win the round on points and end up winning the fight. That's where it it
like
does
Brock
lose me a
Lesnar,
little
like
bit as
he,
well.
I guess, to me was just one of those things that's really just put it off. And wrestling is one of his like specialties, and he's exceptionally good at it. But just outweighing somebody and them just saturating their strength levels to be able to just even toss you off. Yes, it obviously discredits their wrestling ability. However, it just becomes a boredom, and they're long rounds. 15 minutes is just your standard fight, and then 25 for the championship titles.
Yeah, that's a long time.
That's a long time. And I can't fast forward on these pay-per-views. It gets annoying.
And
it's happening now with like this whole Dagestani, like the Russian Dagestanis that are just insane. Their wrestling is so on a level level above, what even Olympic or anything that is. They're just.
Oh, really? Is wrestling kind of like the thing at the moment? Is it?
Well, it is.
They're really good at
it. This particular, school in Russia where they're just fucking animals.
Yeah, right.
And they're obviously a lot of them. They end up, getting it into a submission as well. But there are some of the fights where again it's just the person who they're fighting against cannot stuff the takedown.
Yeah.
And they'll just fucking wrestle for 25 minutes. But I mean, look, it comes in waves again. Eventually, someone will find a way to really counter that, and it will come full circle again. It's happened with martial arts for forever.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more. We're on the topic of fighting anyway. So obviously you got back into it, you were saying at about 18 or 19 and had your first fight in 2011. Now you had another break somewhere in there for a bit as well. Is that right?
Yeah, I did. So I guess I had about 5 fights consecutively pretty quickly over about a space of a year.
Didn't lose one of those, did you?
No, I did. Okay. So I think I ramped up pretty quickly. So I managed to secure the first 4 wins, first 3 wins, and then third win was by knockout in the first round. So we ended up rematching at an Ease of Fury show, and we just had a pretty straightforward back and forward fight, and I just got unanimous points, and I guess probably wasn't the most exciting fight from memory as well too. But I actually fought on the same night as Israel Adesanya, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's always an interesting memory. So like he fought on the same show that I fought on and was main eventing against a gentleman named Gary here in Adelaide, and that was one of the best fights I ever seen. But not just like Gary's fight was incredible, and he's just a well put together human being, and his level of conditioning was exceptionally good, and his fight style was exceptionally good. I remember sparring with him and going, "Fuck this, I'm done. I'm just going to go do accounting or something." So
back to the Institute of Fitness.
Go put that green and white jumper back on. I remember just sparring with him and going, "No, this is incredible." But then I didn't expect much less, considering he lost against Israel, which is not necessarily no surprise knowing what Israel has done and accomplished this day, but he put up a hell of a fight. And to the point where like people were just undecided on who actually genuinely won that fight. And I actually probably will admit, as much as I love Izzy, and I've always said he's like the supreme fighter and he's the god of the 8 limbs in that sort of sense. And now in MMA as well too. But I just thought Gary genuinely won that fight. Yeah. I was a bit sort of on the, and I might be pushing a couple of buttons here. I don't know. Maybe. Sorry if everyone about that. I just lost 8,000 fans. No, I'm joking. But no, like I genuinely thought Gary did exceptionally well. And then they rematched, and then Izzy just turned it up in the 3rd round and just really just sealed the deal. So I was like unreal. Yeah. And then he fought a couple of other guys here in South Australia a few times over as well too. He fought a gentleman from Steve Behan and did exceptionally well it was exciting the fact that I've shared the arena with him at some stage in the I'm like, that's pretty cool on the resume,
Yeah, man.
One of my worst fights was the same card as his on as well too. So then after that, I fought for a state title at a local show here in Elizabeth, Playford Civic Centre, and lost. Got cocky, got arrogant. I was like, I won my first 4 fights.
Yeah.
I don't need to
You're on
train
that
as
winning
hard.
streak, bro.
Yeah, I was just maintaining the high, and I guess that's where it comes down to a little bit more like, you just got to really reset after every fight, and you just really got to recalibrate exactly where you did go wrong. Even if you won, there's always things you can relearn.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Or I guess specialize. And I think one of my trainer always used to say, don't fear the guy who's done 10,000 kicks, but the same kick 10,000 times. And that's just that repetitious training. And that's just what made
that
me
muscle memory.
Yeah. It just made me really click and just go, all right, I really need to hone in on some of these things that I was weaker at. And things like even like the clinching, if I can be a better defense against the clinch, I don't have to actually engage in the clinch anymore. Yeah. And that's just something I just did. So like, things like that kind of specialize. Then obviously some unfortunate life happened. Yeah. Not sort of in the mid 2013. And I did take about a year and a bit off with just some life stuff, I guess. And I ended up coming back and fighting in a 4-man elimination. I was actually a backup fighter for somebody who ended up getting injured. And I was like, I think it was 86 or 85 kilos or something ridiculous. And I had to be like under 73 in 4 weeks' time. And I don't know how I did it, but managed to get to the position where I trained exceptionally well, cut all the way, and just looked like an
smoked a whole bunch of crack.
I was going to say, I'm like, my face
didn't sleep.
My face was so gaunt, and I think I was running every day.
10 kilos in 4 weeks.
It's more like 12 or 13.
Fuck.
I remember it being a lot more. I remember being exceptionally difficult. And the funny thing was, I weighed in at exactly 72.9, which is the best bit. Under 73, try and be as close as you can. And I think I walked back out in the ring at like 82 or something ridiculous, 82 and a half. It was all just short of 10 kilos. And I remember the other guy because we actually had to fight twice in the same night. So, and I was fortunate enough to get the win in the first fight over knockout in the second round. You know, I got a couple of bumps and bruises on the shin and the ribs and felt a little bit tender, but I felt good enough to get into the second round. But unfortunately, he also won by second round knockout too. So we were both pretty fit and ready to rock and roll in the second fight of the night, 45 minutes later.
That's a fucking quick turn.
Yeah.
That's some UFC
That's some Royal
1990s
That's some
shit,
Royal
bro.
Rumble shit, bro.
Yeah.
They got people walking into the ring
I think
constantly.
the best part was it was only 45 minutes, so you didn't really have enough time to sort of sit there and seize up and let the swelling sort of come out and those sort of things. So you kind of go, in hindsight, it's probably not a bad thing.
Yeah, because it's a couple of hours, you're like, I'm ready for fucking bed.
Yeah. The
You get,
adrenaline's fucking...
especially after not fighting for a year and then coming back into a second round knockout, you tend to find that there is a massive adrenaline dump straight away. And I just remember going like, just preserve yourself. And of course you get a little bit excited. You go to the corner, you let them wave that off and do their counts and that sort of stuff. And I remember just going, all right, I need to breathe. I need to go back and I just need to keep walking around and just ice a few things and just keep maintaining a rhythm. Don't let yourself seize up. And a lot of times after a fight, you would normally seize up. You have a massive adrenaline crash and you tend to go, I can just go and eat some snacks and just go straight to bed. Yeah. Or you kind of ride this wave of weird adrenaline high when you feel crap at like 3 o'clock in the morning. You're still kicking going, fuck, I'll just play Call of Duty.
Yeah, why not? Do it all night, why not?
Yeah, just turn it on and put the headset on and call it a day. But I remember just getting back out in the second round and I remember just the starting off real technical and the first minute just bit it backwards and forwards, a couple of jabs, a couple of low kicks and checks. And then I think he got me with just a little cheeky elbow on the top of the head. Didn't cut me or anything like that. And I just remember going, all right, cool. And we just turned it on from there. It just was like literally war for about another 8 more minutes of the fight because it was 3-minute rounds, which is, not too bad. But you kind of got I remember just being at the end of there and we were just so tired and we were just like kind of looking at each other, semi-grappled, and we're just like throwing elbow for elbow. And they were just skimming off our faces. And I remember after the fight, the bell went and we just looked at each other and we just kind of fell over and I'm like, mate, you all right? He's like, yeah. Are you all right? I'm like, oh, my ribs fucked. I'm done. I'm practiced. And I remember having to be carried back out. And we were both I think he was actually in better condition. And he gave me a good concussion in the second round. And we were just going backwards and forwards the entire night. Got the unanimous decision. And
good on you.
Yeah, I remember just being in the change rooms going, fuck, how did I get here? And then my auntie walks in. I'm like, I live with you, don't I? And she's like, you do. And I'm like, shit, all right.
That was a big fight.
That's when you sort of know. And that's, I guess, when you've done that a couple of times, which I have.
Yeah.
I guess that's when you kind of go, like, all right, well, how much toll is it taking on the brain and I guess long-term, I guess the mental side of it. I guess the movie Concussion flipped me. I'd never looked at fighting the same way or even any other sort of contact sport.
Was that an actual, I've not seen that. Is that a
Will
documentary or something?
Will Smith does a movie called Concussion, but it's based on, I think he's of South African descendancy, but he was a doctor in the US and he does a lot of NFL testing and brain damage from a lot of people sort of committing suicide or murder, suicide, with family and friends, and they tend to get a little bit sort of just off the wagon, so to speak, and really just end up becoming extremely unstable. Yeah. And they all base it down from brain damage. And I think he ended up suing the NFL or something I can't remember. Look, honestly, like I said, I can't really remember much anyway. But I remember just watching that movie and going, some of these things that he was talking about, even though it's from a movie, decided to watch partial of the documentary side of it as well too. And I'm going, some of these things are really relative. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, maybe this thing is genuine. And I don't think I took as many hits as I probably, dished out, or alternatively some of the other guys do. And I know we were all built differently. I know I didn't have the strongest jaw on the planet. So I've copped a few and I've gone down, eaten some leather, got back up, managed to still win a fight or whatever. And same with training. I've copped a fair few and kind of realised that even the after effects, you get the headaches and that sort of stuff. And like I said, I think earlier on tonight, migraines, I'd never suffered from migraines ever. And then a year after hanging up the gloves, I was getting them every month. And now if I sleep in, I think that's probably one of the better parts of having this job. If I sleep in, anytime after 8, I reckon I'm going to have pretty much a tension headache or some kind of migraine. I don't know.
So you're oversleeping and that's causing a migraine?
It normally would, yeah. Yeah, so I just naturally just get up. I don't care if it's a Sunday morning. I'll just get up at 7 and
I'd rather be tired and fucking than not have a fucking headache.
Correct. Yeah. And sometimes it would really send me. I reckon I've probably went home maybe 1 or 2 times as well too, going, this is brutal, and wearing sunnies inside like an absolute dickwad. But it's just it was only whatever I could do, and I was just shoveling painkillers just to sort of try and get rid of it. And caffeine didn't work. Okay. I mean, my stimulant level I guess resilience was pretty good, so I didn't have to pre-workouts. Just basically lived off them for a while. So, but yeah, just migraines. It was one of those things, and that was one of the things I went into as well, saying that was a thing that you develop from, I guess, multiple concussions. So, I kind of looked at those things and kind of maybe it's not one of those forever things, and I was actually pretty happy at one point. They even offered me a shot at sort of like a world championship in Thailand. Yeah. And I remember getting halfway through the camp going, I'm not really into this, and didn't really want to go out there and put it all on the line and sort of fail miserably and absolutely hate it sort of thing or whatever. And I just sort of said, maybe it's just not for me anymore. And just took a step back and I like train here and there and do things here and there and help some of the other boys. And then obviously the career changed anyway. So, and that's consumed pretty much 90% of my life after that. So that's that in a nutshell, really.
What'd your record finish up at?
I think it was 15 fights, 13 wins, and I think it was like 6 inside the distance or something like that, in the way of knockouts or a TKO and those sort of things. So it was good.
It's pretty fucking good.
Yeah, good
man,
record. Good record. About that. Couple of belts, and you get to keep them forever, which is fantastic.
That's awesome. Cool. Yeah. But back on what you were saying, I think this is important. It's something that's like Rogan talks about all the time, about for him personally, about as soon as you feel yourself with your heart not 1,000% in it, hang the fucking gloves up. Because it's those fights that you take when you're not 100% certain, where you get your fucking block knocked off and it possibly is life altering. And you really stand, because you're not engaged. You're not engaged with the whole thing, and that's the time where you're going to end up.
If you're not 100% in, just stay out. It's nothing against you as a person. I would always cop messages and people saying, when are you fighting next? When are you fighting next? And it wasn't frustrating from, I guess, the outside perspective, because I really wanted to fight again to an extent, but just didn't really want to commit to it at the same time. I just think I liked the idea of just entertaining for my friends and family. I really enjoyed and got into it as well too. And I reckon I'd copped a bit from them saying, you need to fight again, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I'm not into it. And eventually they all came around and go, look, we understand. You do what you need to do and that sort of stuff. And they respect the decision. So, but I just wasn't really checking in. Even when I was in the training, I was kind of like maybe just finishing up 15 minutes early. And
that's when you know it's like...
That's when I started really going. Even my running in the morning, I was dropping off from like 5 or 6K to like 4 or 3K. And I was kind of like, I don't really feel like doing this right now. I just end up walking home or something like that.
You were probably ready mentally for like a whole new passion. You were like, all right, you know what? You've had 15, 16, 17 fights. I've got tons of wins. I've learnt so much. Not only was it the concussion, but your soul was like, all right, I'm ready to tackle something new.
Yeah, exactly. No, you probably bang on there as well too. And I think at that point in my job, I was doing exceptionally well at Fitness Warehouse for a good 5 years. And I was even looking at maybe even like a slight career path change where it might have been a little bit more flexible with time and that sort of thing. And I sort of thought about maybe reapplying for the military, but in a different position, because I actually applied back in, I think it was 2010, and unfortunately got knocked back. And that was kind of like my whole life was building up to that. And when that sort of fell through, I was like, all right, I'll go do and continue the fighting side of it. So let's, maybe ramp that up, because I just really enjoyed it. And just got addicted to that sort of thing. So
you mentioned that you applied for the military. You told us before air that one of the reasons that your initial application got rejected because of bulge discs in your back and just your back being generally fucked.
Just a bit average.
How did that go with kickboxing?
Fine. I was flexible and I was fit and I wasn't encompassed by a bit of extra body weight and that sort of thing. So I always felt pretty good. Every now and then you'd do a weird thing where you go for a run and you roll an ankle and that kind of twinges up a little bit as well too, just an odd movement. But you sort of recover, bounce back pretty much 2 or 3 days later. But I was running lofty like 3 times a week just for the
you
sake
were a fucking animal.
Just for fun. I was like, I just want to go turn it up a notch. And I was just basically how fast can I do lofty sort of thing. Which was I just
back when the pre-workout was good.
Back when Jack 3D, White Lightning, baby.
White Lightning was the best.
Oh, it was that.
Before that was Black Bombs, and that was just basically just this gut-wrenching flavour of dark cherry.
Cherry, I remember that one, bro.
And that was hardcore. I mean, if you could scoop that and not gag, you were pretty much an elite level human being.
We abused it though. I look back now and we were like 6 scoops. Did you really have to have 6?
Did you need a scoop just to get to work?
Yeah. Just to go to town.
How about me? You're having scoops when you get back from town because you've got no drugs left, right? That's when you know it's bad.
Oh, man,
right? I need something to keep me going right now.
You see a couple of little money bags pop out and everyone's just got full of like flavoured pre-workout. You're like, is that pineapple? You're like, it's pineapple White Lightning.
Some of that. Give me some of that.
Oh man, if I can get another tub of that shit, I 100% reckon I'd go for a good run again.
Yeah.
What a weird like black market. Like, I've got all these stimulants. No, I don't want any of that. You got any of that?
I want that pineapple white lighting,
if
baby.
anyone ever went to the US, I'd be like, you've got to make sure you bring about a couple of good pre-workouts because what's over there on the shelf is worth next to nothing. You bring it back here, it's like $300 a tub.
Yeah.
It's actually could be lucrative.
Yeah.
But it's always like prohibited this and banned that.
Yeah, well,
scumbags.
Yeah, well,
Exactly
apparently
right.
you can't put meth in a pre-workout.
No,
Yeah, well,
that's
not anymore. You can't.
No.
Apparently that's a problem. So look, obviously you mentioned the break that you took off in about the 2013 time, and you know one of the reasons I wanted to get you on is because you're a fucking great man, and I think that you know we've been close for a long time, and I think that your story and kind of the resilience and what's led you to where you are now in a fucking suit in front of me, looking dapper as hell. I think, you know, if you've listened to the podcast, obviously you know that we're very big on that stuff.
Mental health and
you know, it's something where for me, I think that it's an important lesson to learn. We actually, you know, try to really drill down on those sort of scenarios that are, you know, different and obscure for whatever reason, and look at, you know, how we overcome shit, because it's an absolutely, you know, insane thing. The world is just fucking crazy, man.
Yeah.
And,
Absolutely.
so yeah, look, I guess I wanted to get your insight on what it was like sort of getting yourself to where you're at now. You know, I think that if anyone talks to you on the street or talks to you in your job, you seem about as well put together as it could possibly be, but I'm sure it's not always been that fucking easy.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, I guess, get you to talk us through that and kind of what's got you to where you're at right now.
Yeah. I guess the break was a bit of a sort of on the spot thing, and wasn't like anything planned. Absolutely not. It was just a life thing, a bit of a life change, and unfortunately, as you probably remember, a partner of mine at the time had a bit of an unfortunate accident. I just sort of left her in a pretty rough situation, long-term things that are just ailments that just won't really ever recover from. Unfortunately, look, I hope she does at some stage, you know.
Yeah, of course.
Have a level of bounce back and a bit of actual life and some stability, and obviously the family would be doing exceptionally well. But unfortunately, after a 5-year relationship, a bit of a car accident kind of threw a spanner in life, and that was probably one of the harder battles I've definitely had to sort of push through, I guess. And I think there was a little bit of a, I guess, your standard stigma about, you know, mental health not being like real or those sort of things back then. And you kind of like, I just want to be your typical bloke and just kind of push on and make sure.
Yeah, bury it.
Yeah, bury it and you know, let it surface later and handle it another time. You know, typical male. And
we don't even know it's going to surface. You just, I think about, you know, myself as a young teenager or whatever, and how like much I didn't understand about it, and you know, deal with previous partners and stuff that I've had that, you know, had gone through traumatic stuff in their own childhoods, and my naivety to like what they were going through, just being like, fucking sort your shit kind of thing, and then realizing later in life like that's not how that fucking works.
And it's not one of those things that you can just kind of go like, people just don't sort their shit out because you've asked them to sort their shit out.
Absolutely.
You just can't. Like, it's just sometimes you either physically can't, emotionally can't, mentally can't, all of the above. And I think at some stage I think we mentioned a few things, like there was a year there where I was trying my absolute hardest, I guess, to support as many people around me as well at the same time, while she kind of tried recovering. And, you know, there was a period where she was in a coma for like 8 weeks straight, and that was just hard on everyone. Like, I think what was the most hardest part was the uncertainty. Was like, I guess, and I hate to say it like the way it is, but if somebody passes, you mourn and you always grieve, but you move on, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's closure, bro.
Yeah, it's exactly right. It's a bit of closure because I guess the final thing has happened, and you kind of have no choice. But it was 8 weeks of like, what if? And then, unlike the movies, you don't just wake up and go, oh, here I am again. It was like, you know, without sort of getting all graphic, kind of put you back together a bit, and you know, they wake up in a sense where it's just they're just open their eyes, but they're not exactly 100% there. They're just there with their eyes open. And then it takes, you know, another 2 or 3 weeks for some basic bodily movements, whether that's just the arm, the foot, movement of the head and neck. It doesn't mean that they're actually there either too. And I remember just sitting in the Hampstead Rehab Centre night after night after night, just kind of hoping and just being there, or just in case anything happens or needed or whatever.
Yeah.
And as we know, the medical system's kind of a bit rough, and you kind of just get left in a room and good luck, all the best, sort of thing. So, and it's absolutely no discredit to the people and the staff members that were along the way, because there was met some incredible nurses and people and doctors and that sort of stuff. And
but they're kind of desensitized because they're seeing what you're going through fucking every day. So that it doesn't even register to them.
They have to.
Of course, otherwise they would fucking crumble themselves.
Absolutely. And some of them do. That's the hard part is they do see, and I've seen, nurses even crumble. You just meet some really cool ones and they just start tearing up and they're just like, it's just hard some days. And I'm like, mate, it's hard just for me today in this 3 hours. You're doing 8 to 10 hours every day as a job and you're going to get your absolute ball breaker people, just like any sort of customer service or clientele sort of thing. Your families that are a bit, high strung, on edge. No matter what you do, it's not good enough because somebody's not recovering. It's your fault. And you just never really get that satisfaction of just like I've helped somebody in their life because, you're probably getting attacked every other day for it instead. So I was trying my hardest to be just, I think, a good all-round human being about those sort of things as well, of course. Just because
while
I don't
also going through your own,
just I didn't envy them. I didn't envy me either too. And I just, because I was like, having to watch this day in, day out, I couldn't do it. So absolute highest level of admiration for anyone that does do that and still doesn't suffer from compassion fatigue or any of those things as well too, who really just rides it and grinds away and continues to just help and support and genuinely care about other people in their absolute worst and extremes. So
what's funny, just kind of circling back to what we were talking, and I want to come back to this and get further into it, but my partner previously working in a nursing home for many years, and she was in the kitchen, so it wasn't anything to do, but obviously they work very closely with all of the staff.
Oh, yeah, of course.
One of the things we talk about, and it's weird that this kind of cross-translates, but it's like she would witness a lot of the older 20-year tenured staff who would just clearly didn't have it in them anymore. And it's like we said with the fighting thing, like if you're, it's a different thing, but if your heart's not in it anymore, probably time to look at doing something else because you are, these people, you're talking about these people with dementia or whatever it may be, who their entire quality of life is dependent on your care factor. And if it's not there anymore, and she used to get into run-ins with the heads of the nursing departments or whatever all the time, just being like, you guys are fucking useless. You guys don't give a shit. Like it's abusive almost the way you treat these fucking people.
Which I hope people just don't end up in that situation. And I hope that the industry doesn't churn people out because of those things. But I really hope that anyone out there that even from a nurse point of view, if they're struggling, stop, catch a breather. I know you got bills to pay and that sort of stuff, and I get that, and that's hard too.
Once again, that then comes back to the whole systematic thing that we were saying earlier. The healthcare system is fundamentally not broken, but like it's just, I guess it's broken.
Yeah, broken.
Right, it's like these nurses and these people should be able to have the opportunity that if they are feeling that compassion fatigue or they are feeling like that, to go away for a week or 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever, and know that they've got a job to come back to, or at least get some kind of support. But it just doesn't seem
get moved on to light duties where you're not on the front line. Go and do some fucking admin work like that. All the people that I've spoken to, I've never spoken to. I've got a lot of friends that are all the way from doctors, to nurses, and I've never had one of them be like, oh yeah, like it's all just so cruisy. Like I've never, they only ever worked 38 hours. You know what I mean? Every single one of them are like, why did I do? A lot of them are like, I love it, but a lot of them are like, I knew that I would be in for this, but I fuck me, dude.
Some of the other things.
And that comes from, I guess if it was a situation where, they did do that, a lot of them probably would maintain that passion for even longer.
No, exactly
but when you're just getting fucking ground to the bone by whether it's the corporatocracy of all of these fucking places or whatever. But anyway, we're getting off topic.
So off air, we were saying basically like when you were going through this period, you were like, you had a year or something where you felt disconnected and you felt detached and
big time.
All that kind of stuff. How did you then come back out, like crawl yourself back out of that?
That's actually, that's probably a question I can't physically, fully, functionally answer. Okay. And I think it was just one of those things that, out of, I guess, respect out of her, I sort of at some point kind of had to start giving them and the family some space, and I probably had to go and, step away from the situation as, I guess, so she came out of it for her own best interest, because it wasn't like she was a fully equipped human being anymore. It was just more so like, unfortunately, she had like maybe the mentality of, or a mental state of, anywhere between 8, 10, 12, 13 years of age. But that's not that can't be a relationship. That can't. Yeah. So at some point in time, I just sort of said, okay, it's time to step away. And I think that's probably one of the more harder parts of the time.
Because you're essentially dealing with like, not only that, but like serious heartbreak as well. Yeah. It's actual like, that you don't get a choice in this anymore.
Yeah. It's not like a discussion where you kind of have a friendly, like, hey, look, it's been great. Thank you for the last 5 years. Yeah. We're just not on the same path anymore. It's kind of one of those ones that's like, what happens if you do come back? And those sort of questions kind of run through your head as well too. But
which is really fucking tough, man.
Yeah. Look, it definitely wasn't an easy one. Like I said, it's probably one of the harder things I've had to do in life. I mean, it's definitely up there in top 5 anyway. But it's not been an easy run. But I think just like she enjoyed the fighting. I definitely enjoyed the fighting side of it, and not necessarily just fighting, but just being training and being fit. And I think there was a level of because I felt like during that entire stage, I think where it was a bit cloudy and all sorts was going on, I felt very isolated. I wasn't talking to my family. I didn't have a lot of close friends, and the close friends that I did have at the time really didn't know how to, I guess the best way to say it is approach me and handle me at I guess that age without that sort of experience, or I guess people don't have the same level of empathy because they don't really understand, and that I think is the best part, is that not a lot of people understand, I think, what was going through my head or like my life at the time, and didn't get to see or witness everything, because I think that's a massive blessing in disguise. I would not honestly wish it on anybody in their entire lives. People talk about cancer being extremely sort of, hard to deal with, and, the loving and caring and support that you get. In some kind of ways, it's like, you at the end of the day, you still feel very isolated. You don't have similarities to share with people. You can't really bounce, thoughts and feelings off people. Yeah. It was just this one unique situation that you personally just have to go through, and that was hard. And anyone that is doing that, like, it's actually just genuinely trying to just trench it every day, rock up at work on time, do things, put up with everyday people. That was one of the hard things, is trying to work in a sales job, trying to be caring and get engaged with a client, and while everything is just sitting in the back of your head going, where am I staying tonight?
That feeling of like wearing a mask.
Genuinely just trying to be just a normal, and I think that's where I sort of maybe got a bit cloudy and kind of can just see it from an outside point of view, because I think I just completely blacked it all out, and then trying to just work out what I'm doing, and as soon as I finish work, where do I go? I didn't really have anywhere to stay at the time, and I just had I was basically couch surfing and staying with friends and other extended family, and it was just an all round pain in the ass. We were trying to build a home at the time, and obviously with the job loss and just I guess the loss of sort of stable life and income, and then I was like, okay, I've got to try and transfer that into something else, and I don't want to lose a deposit or let it all go to waste. I will continue building and continue saving, and I had my hiccups and my roadblocks every now and then, and where I'd take a bit of time off work, but then if I take a bit of time off work, I'd feel like I was just laying in bed all day, and I think like work and fighting or training, it definitely created a level of stability. I think one of the cool things, and I say cool as in like kind of loosely, was some of the other people I met along the way that did find me out and did seek me out and engage with me and sort of offer a bit of advice or help, or they went through something similar, and which was like a year or so down the track, when I kind of just started re-engaging in the world sort of thing as a human being, instead of this just drone level autopilot, just trying not to break down every day sort of thing.
Well, it's a very unique situation, and it would be, as much as it's not completely uncommon, but it is still very uncommon to be in that scenario.
It was very uncommon at our age, being in our early 20s,
exactly.
straight out of school, massive group of friends, slowly starting, everyone's doing their own thing, got works, and then this happens. It's like, oh shit, like, what do I do?
Who do I talk to? Phase.
Genuinely.
We had a girl on the podcast very early in the piece who she had a skydiving accident. So she would have been, it was a couple of years ago now, so she's maybe 26 or something at the time, in a coma for a long time, and was able to come out of it with pretty much all of her bearings, dealing with a lot of body stuff now in terms of pain,
physical side,
whatever, because she broke fucking about everything that she possibly could. But again, that one thing that I can really resonate with from her, from what you were talking about, is that unknown period, and you want to find out because you want to know what's going on, but you don't want to fucking pry, and then everyone's always wondering whether you're about to get the phone call that it's not. It's never going to come back, and then
absolutely. Look, I was approached by even really close friends later, even probably a year or two down the track, saying, "We're so sorry, we probably handled it poorly on our end, and you obviously look like everything's going normally for you now, or the higher level of normal can be, and we're just so sorry that we just really didn't know how to do that or engage with you." And I'm like, "Look, it's not your fault."
Well, they don't know.
I'm glad you don't know. Like, I would hate the fact that this would be a common occurrence for people.
Exactly.
Like, it would just be the mental stability of like, I guess a lot of people would just deteriorate instantly, and then just have a whole lot of people just hating everything. And I feel like maybe I was trying to still be a people pleaser on the other end, and just be try and help the family and put everyone else first, and that sort of stuff. And I guess I left myself out of the whole picture. And then when it all kind of disappeared, I just crashed and burned, and it just sort of just pieced myself back together there as well too. And that was tough. Like that was, I don't wish that on anybody else at all, ever. And if you are, like I said, going through that sort of stuff, reach out. You can more than happy to message me anytime you want to catch up for a coffee. If that's what, stops a family member, a friend getting an unfortunate, tragic phone call in the middle of the night or in the middle of the day or something just absolutely shit, then call me.
Man, that's it.
Call me. Like, I don't mind. You want to trade shit stories and over a cup of coffee, you want to grab a pizza, you want to play some COD, whatever. Like, I don't mind. Like, I would rather, just give you some help or some support or just a genuine, you want to sit on the couch quietly, I'd do it. I don't mind.
Yeah, man,
I don't mind.
Sure.
And that's so good, man. That's exactly why, it's a hard thing to talk about, and I really appreciate you fucking bearing your soul with that, man, because, but this is why we have the podcast, because we want to have those
we want to hear
unfortunate,
these stories,
like I said, we got Mel on the podcast to tell her story.
Absolutely.
And again, her weird thing of like her trying to like look at the video. I don't want to fucking watch you because she had a GoPro on.
Yeah.
And so because what happened, she was about perfect. Everything was going fine. About 30 meters from the ground, the wind catches the parachute in the wrong way, folds it in itself, free falls from.
It almost looked like she got like flung though.
And it just kind of like
semi-projectile and.
Yeah, and she's in a situation now where she's just like, look at the video and whatever. Like, obviously you deal with fucking trauma in your own way.
Absolutely.
But it's, it's crazy that in just a blink of an eye, man, things can just change so drastically.
It was just, even though it was just a freakish night, went out for dinner, got an extremely weird, unfortunate call out of the blue, and then it was basically rushed to hospital, and then you're kind of just in this position where you've got about 20 actual doctors and a neurosurgeon saying you might want to say your farewells because we don't think it's going to be a survival thing. And it's just like, what do you do? Like, I could barely stand or walk or talk. And I was out to dinner with friends at the time, and who all just randomly rocked up at the hospital. And I think that to me, and I hold some of those people so close to me to this day, even if I haven't seen them for over a year or two. Like if they ever said, "Hey Steve, can you come give me a hand with something?" I don't care how fucking far it is, whatever it is you need, I will be there, because I think, genuinely speaking, some of those people genuinely saved my life 2 or 3 times over.
Yeah, that's insane.
So massive shout out to Daniel Edwards and some of the guys at Rebel Sport when I was working with them at the time, because they genuinely were lifesavers at the time. And that whole store was going through some serious shit one after another. There was some tragic events there. It just felt like we were in this, like, this shit show of a life all at once. And I think just having us all there and having some similarities and that sort of stuff just I guess helped us all in our own way as well too. So it was probably fortunate timing and unfortunate timing for us all to sort of be in this one little small group.
At least you had that community kind of support. Like.
Yeah, we had a young fella. His dad passed away from cancer during that time, and one of the ones that mum was having a rough time, and just people all together. We had somebody unfortunately lose a baby during the time, or like a pregnancy, and just those like things that just sort of brought us a little bit closer, and we just felt like a really small family of just sort of like a semi-misfit sort of level pack, and we were just doing our thing, trying to come to work, just trying to survive every day. So, and it was just, like I said, it was really unfortunate and good timing at the same time that we were just there in this one spot together. And they were just some cool cats that I'll never forget, and that I should try and reach out to more often. But
but we can say that about everything, where everyone's got those people that you just like, fuck, I miss those.
I really owe that guy a beer. It's been 3 years, but I really owe that guy a beer. I owe you about 3 or 4, to be honest.
Yeah, we've been fucking. This is one of the first times we've been able to actually properly catch up, even though we're doing a podcast and we've been wanting to for so long. But I completely understand that and get that, man. It's hard. There's so many people in my life that I'm like, fuck. The podcast has been amazing for that reason, because I've been able to catch up. Like, I don't know if you know Cody Bishop, but we had him on last week, and again, it's a 25-year friend of mine, and like he put a drum kit together for my little man, but then him bringing the drum kit around was the first time I've seen him in 5 or 6 years. And then we were able to catch up for him coming on the podcast. So I was like, I'm liking that this gives me a reason to be like, come and do this thing, and then we get an opportunity to have a chat.
It's kind of cool because you get a little bit of insight of all these like really interesting people and interesting lives and all these other things. So it's just you sort of you find yourself tuning in, but then you kind of just get stuck and you're like, I push the keyboard away. I just want to watch this for the next hour, sort of thing. Lock the front door on the office office and just get really engaged, and you kind of listen to all these cool stories and kind of go, there's just some cool cats out there.
Yeah, that's honestly one of my favorite parts about doing this is talking to meeting new people and hearing their stories, man.
Yeah, because it's hard. Like now that we don't go to HQ, I don't meet fuck all new people, and that's been the cool thing about because now we're actively hunting new people. It's good to re-engage with old people, but it's also forcing us to then I'm trying to get outside my friendship group as well, and get some new people, which you don't realize that like now with my little man starting school, I know that you start to like you become friends with other kids' parents, but in that first 5 years of his life, not only are you home more because now you're a parent. I've been in the same job for his whole time, so a new job will also bring new friends. But so I've been in the same job. I'm at home. You know, you don't make new friends. I'm not going to fucking. Not. Whereas like back in the day, I'm off my fucking head in smokers area making 40 new friends.
It costs you $600 to buy everyone a new round too.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I've smoked like 9 durries because you like have a durry and then you're like, all right, guys, anyway, I'm gonna head inside and you walk 2 meters, someone else. What a durry!
Met him half an hour ago.
It's just doing another fucking round. So it is, it's cool in that way, man, because it's hard. Absolutely. We're as adults, and I think we need it, man. Like you need that's what I love about this podcast as well. Like you need to. That's what I love about podcasts in general, because you can put yourself in that conversation with them, even though you're not having it.
Absolutely.
You feel like you're privy to their feelings or their thoughts or whatever. Whereas, like, you don't get that from anything else. No. You don't get that from watching mainstream TV.
No, exactly.
Whereas this kind of like, you can really listen to something and feel something or, feel that your thoughts are being provoked by whatever they're talking about.
Absolutely. So I just like the idea of just people just sort of getting together, connecting on a similar level and just really talking it out and that sort of stuff. Helping each other out or just, just having a catch up. Just something simple. Sometimes it doesn't have to be on air. Like we could do this not even on camera and just have a good time. So
absolutely.
And I think that's probably something that definitely should be more often as well too. Just reconnecting with people, especially the good ones. And if that helps a few blokes out and ladies out along the way, then we could.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. So let's bring it into today then, shall we?
Yeah.
You're rolling around in the blue suit.
Yeah.
You've sold some houses.
Apparently blue looks better than black. It's a common theme. But I used to rock the black suit, but everyone's just said, you got to get the navy suits. So I do like the navy. On checkered pattern, so why not? A little bit out there. But definitely a bit of a change up. I guess when I was at the end of the fitness warehouse and the fighting had stopped, I was sort of looking at it and maybe trying to engage in like other sort of career paths. And I was looking at things like the fireys and the police and the military. And I really like the idea of service. I just like the idea of service, whether it's customer service, client service, or just general service altogether, like a serviceman or woman sort of thing role. I think helping people was always something good, whether that's just, hey mate, look, what can I do from a fitness point of view? Hey, I'd love to lose some weight. Cool. Like, what's the goal here? I'm like, I've just put on a bit of weight. My back hurts. Cool, man. In my opinion, you should get a rowing machine. It's going to be the best cardio piece you're going to get, and it's low impact. So it shouldn't hurt your lower back. Really isolate that core. Get onto that. See him 3 months later. He's lost 20 kilos. He's like, bro, this is the best thing you've ever done. Thank you for changing my life.
Fuck yeah.
He goes, I just wish somebody had told me, or and those are cool things, cool interactions. And I guess property was this weird thing. I was on a random Sunday. I shouldn't have even been at work, and I had this particular couple in who owned an agency in the Salisbury region, and it turned into the same conversation. What should I get? Hey, look, I would try this. They just like the way I service it, and about a 2-hour conversation of just yarning and talking just general jargon about like life, fitness equipment, health and well-being, work, mental health. They were just like, hey, do you want to come in for a job interview? I'm like, no, I'm not interested in real estate at all. Not interested whatsoever.
Oh, so they offered you the job?
Yeah, they just said come in for a catch up. And I went home and sort of had a bit of chat with the partner, and she's like, look, I think you'd be really good at it. And you can just talk shit for hours. And it's true. I could just keep going and going.
Yeah, this podcast is already proof of that.
To be a salesperson, you need to.
I think you do. I think you need several other things. You definitely need a level of empathy. Not everyone's selling a house for a good reason.
Yeah, exactly.
You get probates, deceased estates, divorces, and those sort of things. And they're never easy. And I think you definitely need a level of empathy, but you also need to have a level of just like kind and caring and general assistance. There are going to be first home buyers and downsizers and relocators, somebody who's selling their family home at 40 years, and there's a shit ton of memories, and their entire family's grown up and moved on. It's this little big empty nest, and I think selling homes, it just requires that I guess emotional connection to it as well too. And I always sort of get slowly emotionally connected to a lot of my like vendors and purchasers over time, and kind of really try and barrack for certain people. And sometimes I miss out on houses, and it kind of hurts me just as much as it hurts them as well too. Yeah. But you'll see them at the next open home inspection, and I always said to a dozen of those guys, I'm like, I will find you something. Yeah. I will bring it to you, and it will be the right one. And sure enough, over time it would happen. But I don't know. I just decided that why not? If it doesn't go as planned, I will then apply for the military again and go from there as well too. Yeah. Look, it definitely went to plan on a level of like I really enjoyed working, and I don't mind if it's 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. The work side of it's not a big deal for me. Like I could just get up, ADHD kicks in, and we just go, and it just doesn't stop until I've just down to 4-pack of Red Bull and start getting exhausted. And I just keep going, and it's just from an ethical point of view. And I think real estate's kind of a game of ethics as well too. It's just you don't have to be the smartest person. Like I said, it literally can take you 2 weeks to get your real estate license, and that's why I always say to people like, just be careful which agent you engage in. This is your largest asset on the planet. Before you give it to some person, male or female, that's come from no sales history, no property history, doesn't really know what they're doing. That could cost you 10s, 20, 30, 40, $50,000. And I've seen it happen, and it's unfortunate. I've sold houses right next to houses that sold, 2 or 3 weeks prior, and that was an identical copy over in Burton or Paralowie or, Salisbury, and you end up selling it for $40,000 difference. And they're like, how come you got so much? And I'm like, I can't really comment. So it's just sometimes it comes down to an agent, and those are the particulars and the differences that you should really be researching. And I always say, go get multiple quotes. And just because somebody's referred you in doesn't make you the best agent for them. Just because somebody has sold 150 properties that year doesn't mean again they're the best agent again. It really comes down to a game of how hard you're willing to work. Do you get rocky up on a Sunday and do work on a Sunday? And some agents don't, and they still run an incredibly good, well-oiled machine. But some of them do, and they just get things done. I like to. I feel like if you're going to pay me thousands of dollars to look after your largest asset on the planet, I feel like there is no sleep, there is no rest until it's done.
Exactly.
Until it's done and it's unconditional and it's settled and everything's all good. Then you go, all right, I can have a breather. I can go to the pub and have a beer, and I don't feel so guilty. I feel like when I clock off a little bit on somebody else's time, so to speak, I feel a bit guilty. And I think that's probably one of the things that I guess probably makes me a good agent, but at the same time really just I think maybe wears me out a little bit, or I can deteriorate a little bit, or things around me get affected. Family, friends, I don't have much of a social life anymore, and they get it. They're like, can't invite him on a Saturday because he's got opens. Can't invite him on a Sunday, and morning he's going to be doing callbacks and contracts and all that fun stuff. Maybe Sunday night, absolutely lock it in, sort of thing. So
but I totally respect that grind though, because I know where you're coming from, man. Because it's a Sunday morning where you could just be having bacon and eggs and hanging out.
Correct.
But instead, you've got that success mentality.
Oh, look, once I put the suit on, that's it. It's like I engage. If I go home and I continue working, I don't take the suit off because I feel like it's even just a mental thing. If I chuck trackies on, I'm like, that's it. I just go flatline and I'm just laying in bed with 3 slices of leftover pizza and I'm dust. That's it.
But I'm the same with if I want to do exercise or whatever when I get home, I get home and smash it out before, maybe I'll strip down out of something, but I'm not having a shower or doing anything that's slightly slows changing that thing because I need to keep going. Absolutely. Otherwise it's fucking game over, man.
100%. And sometimes even going home kind of just starts making me go, oh, maybe I'll just go home and relax, and then maybe pump out a few emails. And sure enough, I go, I'll just chuck the trackies on and then pump out a few emails, chuck the trackies on, sit down, TikTok or Facebook. It's just this spiral, hit the ground running sort of thing. And then it takes you a lot more to then get up and get out and go do that sort of stuff. But I would just rather smash it out in the office. I think that's just where
that's what they're there for.
Yeah, exactly. The environment. Really just isolate your time and you focus on those sort of things and just get whatever you need done straight away. And if you get home at 9 o'clock, so be it.
So how long have you been doing it for now?
This is just over 2 years, I think. So managed to, I guess with the company I started with, managed to get basically a lot of hands-on experience. And I think that that was a really good, thing. It was a bit more of I have to admit, it's a bit more of a concentration camp. And it was just basically, it's like you grind or you don't, and we don't particularly want you here sort of thing. It was very... Look, if you
cutthroat.
Yeah, it's very cutthroat. And I think that particular environment, kind of made me grind for the sake of, you know, like I can do this, I can do this, I can do this when everyone kind of doubted you and some of your abilities.
Fire, bro.
Oh, absolutely. It's just my competitive nature as well. So
I'm
just
exactly
kicks
the same.
right back in as well. It's like, well, if you say I can't, I got to go do it 2 times better now.
Exactly.
It's not like I just have to do it. I've got to actually go and
show you that I've done it.
Now you're
exactly
mentally
right.
fucking kicking their
Yeah,
head.
exactly right. So,
and knowing in the back of your mind that if they fuck around, you're ready to go as well.
slash the car tires.
That's the Paraford Gardens coming out.
That's the northern suburbs. Kicking
Look
right
what happened. Everyone but mine. That's so weird.
Yeah,
I don't know
right.
how that happened.
Yeah,
Fuck with me again.
Yeah, jump on your roof and that sort of fun stuff. All that fun stuff. So
Star drop.
And with the pandemic coming in, we've seen a big pump in housing, haven't we?
Yeah, I thought, cool, pandemic's here, better get the resume up to scratch because it's going to be a dead industry, and it's literally just done a full 180.
Yep.
And I guess, look, I refer to it as stock levels, but people and sellers or potential vendors are just not really ready to sort of hit the market because they don't really know what's happening or the uncertainty gives them fear. But then when they're seeing Mr. and Mrs. Vendor up the road who just sold their 3-bed, 1-bath home in Parallel for $100,000 more than Mr. and Mrs. Vendor on the other side only 12 months ago, they're like, okay, cool, this is really cool. But they also know deep down that it's probably a good time to sell. Probably not the best time to then go and buy an upsize. If you're downsizing, absolutely go. Yeah. You're in Golden Grove and you're going to downshift to like a 2-bedroom over in the western suburbs. You get 1 million, 1.1 million for that. You downsize to 450, 500 over there. Wicked. You've capitalized.
Make some money.
Yeah, you make 10% on the property you sold. You pay 10% on the property you buy. But if that sold for more, then the maths works out and you pocket a bit of a difference.
Exactly.
If you're upsizing or you're getting into the market, I do feel sorry for you.
Not a good time.
Yeah.
It's definitely not the best time, but I do feel sorry for you. But if you do need just an update or a second opinion, don't hesitate to call. It's just not. It doesn't mean you have to sell if an agent pops out and says, "G'day." You don't have to sell.
Yeah, no.
If someone brings you a buyer or an offer, you don't have to take it. It's just as simple as that. But it's always good to sort of get a bit of a health check on the old property. It's like I said, it's your biggest asset on the planet. It's just like your health insurance. You better have it, sort of thing. So
it's your castle, bro.
Exactly.
When we called up on the phone when we were trying to tee up this episode, I remember we were talking about it and I was saying, like, for you, one of the things that you've had, especially when you were in that cutthroat situation, but you also realized and understood that that being as genuine and caring and empathetic as possible has made a big difference for you as well, because it's very easy to just become one of those. You might need to be ruthless with your work ethic and whatever else, but you don't need to be ruthless with the clientele or whatever else.
These are people. These are human beings, and these people just aren't farm animals. And a lot of people would just go like, "Oh, that's your client is just a piece of meat or something like that." I never look at a person like that. I want to get to know you first. I want to know what you're interested in, what your home goals, your next 5 to 10 years aspirations look like. What do you do for work? What do you do for hobbies? Like, what do you guys do together? I really like to get to know them first, and then be like, look, at the end of the day, I want to service you as best I possibly can, because I feel like once I commit to somebody and I really, I guess, appreciate them and as people, and I get attached to them, I feel like I really just ramp it up again for these people. And I've sold homes for friends and family even this year, and I've got exceptional results. And that part just makes me feel better. It's not necessarily about the money. It's just that part to me, just changing somebody's life. And I know life isn't always about money. It's not. That's 100% evident. Sometimes it's just about having good people around you and having just a good time and just sitting back and riding life.
Money also facilitates good times too.
It does. It definitely does. Like money, can create forms of happiness. I mean, like some people, the old saying is, I'd rather cry my BMW than my Suzuki Swift.
Yeah.
No offense to the Suzuki Swift. They're absolute goals.
Ain't no BMW.
Ain't no BMW. So and wiping tears with $100 bills has always been a good one too. But at the end of the day, sometimes I could potentially trade it all in for some beers with the boys.
Yeah. Look, I think it's the important thing is balance, but I think the goal that you have in mind is to fucking hustle your absolute dick off to get yourself to a point that you're not. You don't want to be 65 before you're like, oh, beers with the boys, and fucking half of them are dead or whatever.
And then you're just in the same sort of spot as you were.
It's about trying to be like, okay, if I do it for this period of time now where I'm at my fucking peak, I'm at my best, I can work 15-hour days without fucking batting an eyelid, so that maybe when I'm 45, I'm working a fucking 8-hour day and making way more than what I was working 15.
And you can provide for your kids in the future and all that kind of stuff.
Look, I grew up probably not in the best sort of situation. My parents were really young, probably inexperienced with life in themselves as well too. I mean, they were probably one of them was half my age when she had me. So that's I'm 30 now. She was 15, going on 16, having a newborn is probably not best mistake she ever made. That her words, not mine. But she goes, I probably would have done this.
You're a kid, you're
exactly.
growing
and
up.
I wasn't probably the best kid either, too. I think it was just very dysfunctional, and I created dysfunctional habits, and probably wasn't the most easiest going kid. Even if I knew I was doing the wrong thing, I just kind of was like, do it anyway.
Into it a little
whatever.
bit.
It is. I'm just a kid. I can get away with it, but that doesn't last forever. And so but yeah, I think I would like to have a level of like functionality and stability as I get older, and if I decide to have a family, I would like to be able to provide absolutely everything for them. Man. And if I've got to sacrifice a couple of hard slog uphill years, so be it. It's a worthy sacrifice, and that's fine. I see it as a fair trade, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, bro.
And look, education isn't, like I said, education isn't always the most important thing. If they want to come out of school and do something, genuinely good. I just want to be a really good chef. Cool, man. As long as you're happy. I think that's the most important part. As long as you're happy doing that, you want to be, I wouldn't say just a chef, because that's not absolutely true at all. There's some wicked chefs out there, but you want to be a wicked chef. I want you to be the best chef there ever is. I'll put you in the premium chef schools, or make sure you've got the premium utensils, or, you're in a premium environment, or let's say hypothetically you have to leave that environment and you're just waiting for the perfect gig to come up in the perfect restaurant in your dream job. Cool, man. Whatever you need. And I just want to be that particular dad or someone like that, where I can actually support my little human being down the track. Make sure they just get the best of the best. The things that I didn't have, I guess, and I think sometimes that is definitely a drive for me.
And it's also time too. You're working hard now because you know that when that time comes, you're not gonna have to be working 15-hour days on a Sunday. No, because you can go like, all right, I'm not working today. It's my business. It's my this.
We can hire someone else who's young to do that.
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. And have a bit of a team around you. And hey guys, I need Saturday off. Kids got sports carnival, or where you want to take them and make sure he kicks ass at footy or whatever, or going to drop the boy off the airport because he's making it to Canberra for SAPSARS or sports running or whatever he wants to do. Or she, who knows? Hopefully he, but
put that out to the universe.
Now this on the podcast, it's happening, right?
As long as they don't get into combat sports, I think that's probably going to be the hard.
You wouldn't want them to do that.
I just don't think they need to go through that level of trauma.
See, I've always gone like, my kids are doing a martial art. It was the best thing I ever did, and like. I mean, I don't know necessarily about fighting,
competing or anything
15 fights and getting 5 concussions, but at least getting the discipline.
Look, if they want to go to a structured sport that has that level of discipline, I'm all for it 100%. And if they want to compete because they genuinely want to compete, not because I did or somebody else did or the peer pressure of doing it. I mean, I think I had a few fights just because of the peer pressure of doing it.
Oh, true.
So I don't want them to have to do that. That's just not necessary. That's probably a little too far. I just want them to be able to do whatever they want to do, and I can just provide for them every step of the way. I don't want them to be spoiled little shits. But I want them to know that if they ever needed anything from me, I can just go, cool, man, what do you need?
You're going to obviously, you teach them the ethics as well. I think that's the thing. It's about having the thing there to support them, but also showing them the value of the hard work and
just
ethics and whatever else as well.
And substance and just general well-being, like how to be a good person. I think that's probably something. Just just because I have $1,000 doesn't mean I'm going to give you $1,000.
No, that's right.
Like there are ways about it. What are you going to do? Like how are you going to earn that sort of $1,000 and why do you need it? I think the why is also more important too.
And that's my whole thing, man. For me, the thing that I want to teach Winston the most is just that ethic, man. I have a fucking ruthless work ethic. I mean, I'm here on a fucking Wednesday night. I'll do gigs. I'll do stand-up gigs. Fucking 2 other nights.
Absolutely.
Look after my family, work full time, and make it all happen, because that's the most important lesson. And the thing is, if you teach that, they're not going to ever become a kid that's like wanting to fucking leech off you, because they're going to see like my dad had an accident when he was young. And ended up just finding any fucking possible way that he could hustle, and worked his ass off as a man with a disability to give us more than what the disability pension would have meant. We would have just been fucking absolutely Vegemite toast for every meal, because mum needed to look after us, and
microwave baked beans, whatever it took.
And he was told you're not allowed to work.
That's still a staple.
And the disability,
I love it.
The disability pension doesn't give fuck all, especially for a fucking 6'5", like that would eat the entire cupboard if there wasn't fucking change.
And both Aaron and AJ.
And then my 2 brothers are 6'4", 6'3", respectively.
Absolutely.
So I just watched my dad fucking just turn it on my whole life, just find ways, and it took me a while for it to kick into me, because I was too busy being a fucking loose cunt and just like having fun. But once it, especially Erica falling pregnant, and as soon as that flick switch,
the mentality.
Because when I was just responsible for myself,
Yeah.
if I was fucking eating whatever or eating beers for dinner, you know, then I didn't really give a shit. 'Cause it's only me.
absolutely.
Like I would pay my rent or wherever I was living, and you know, pay my few bills that I had, and then just barely fucking scrape by. And I didn't really give a shit. You know, take sick days, whatever. And then now, you know, as soon as I've had that kid and I'm responsible for someone else, the work ethic just went through the fucking roof, man.
Well, it kind of weirds me out because sometimes I like to think I've got a good work ethic, and I kind of go, well, what happens when I do have kids? Will I just get harder, or will I do like a reverse effect? I just don't know. So
you never know until you get there.
Well, that's it.
I think for you though, like already having it now, with that in mind, hopefully you will go. And as long as you catch yourself, man, it's like one of those things where
I have to
watch it in every movie plot ever, and that's what I'm always fearful of as well. You know, I never want it to get to that situation. Like if a job comes up, it could be the dream, you know, the biggest dream job of mine. But if I can see the writing on the wall that it's going to take so much of my time away, then, you know, I have to be conscious of that. Because for me as well, working from home and through the pandemic, I didn't realize how much I was actually struggling before working 5 days a week from the city with a newborn at home, where the travel time is so much because I catch public transport because I couldn't afford, you know, try to keep Erica for home for as long as we can. Got rid of the second car. I'm walking to the train station and just doing those things to try and help us.
So much
but
time
I'm having
lost.
so much time not at home. And like my relationship with my son, like, you know, was impacted by that because he was absolute mama's boy because she's there all the time and I'm not. And then I come home because of the pandemic and I'm there for that first like 3 months where we're in full lockdown and me and him just fucking, the relationship just through the roof. And I was like, fuck. And like, you know, again, it took something like that for me to go like, nothing's ever going to come at the cost of this again now, you know?
Absolutely.
And I think that's, you know, you'll get to that point. You'll see 100%. Like, you know, you'll miss a footy game or whatever it may be.
And it'll crush you.
Well, my partner just went through it. She started a new job and he was doing soccer and she had to miss about 4 of his little soccer things in a row and it fucking gutted her because that was like her favourite time of the week. Was going and watching him play soccer. So it's like, you got to make those sacrifices sometimes, but you don't want to be doing that forever.
I always just picture the end game. How well do you want that end game to look to yourself, that sort of thing.
Exactly.
You know, what position do you want to be in and that sort of thing as well too. And I just want to be in that comfortable position, financially stable. You know, I don't have to worry about working or hustling too hard or you know, cold calling somebody or door knocking somebody and go, mate, I need business. Can I help you with anything, sort of thing?
I'll clean your gutters and then something else.
I will paint the walls and get whatever you need done. And I definitely don't want to get in a position like that, but I definitely want to be able to just, you know, be able to take it back a notch and that sort of stuff and just really be there during their earlier stages, especially the fully developing stages, you know, really trying to develop emotional connections and those sort of stuff and start learning some really cool traits. And I hope I have a bunch of cool kids and, you know, and they're healthy, more importantly, of course, as well too. And just, and that's one of the reasons why I think I recently relocated, because I just wanted a little bit more flexibility of my time and I just wanted to be in a real, like, I guess maybe a family-friendly environment who was more acceptable, and that's why I started with LJ Hooker, property specialist recently.
That's what I was just about. You fucking segued yourself because I was about to be like, you've just started a new position. So how did that come about? Tell us a little bit about that before we wrap it all up.
That was just basically, it was a bit of a plot twist. So once upon a time, like my partner and I had some, like they were technically in her name, but we were sort of looking after some investment properties, and they both kind of went south, but in ways that nobody else could control. And we'd sort of looked for some assistance, and we bumped into a couple of property managers, and we ended up engaging with one from, at the time it was called LJ Hooker Golden Grove Greenwith, and we had two incredible property managers there. They were both like above board, just extremely good people, good human beings, efficient, like ethical, the whole works, and I couldn't fault them to a T. And it was just I always looked at them and go, that would have been a cool place to work. That would have been a cool place to work. And then I landed at this other gig, which I thought would also be a really cool place to work with some people that I kind of like on the outside kind of go, well, they're doing good things and they seem to be doing really good numbers, and that just looks like a really high, intense sort of environment where, you know, it was just always like go, 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 go. And then sort of, you know, after a year, a bit of that, I was kind of like, well, you know, I guess the work side of it was kind of good, but I guess probably the ethics or the ethical side of it, and probably the I guess the morale and just those other things that, you know, really come and trickle down from the top. Was I really appreciated with the time that I put in? Probably not. Did I enjoy it? Not as much as I wish I did. I think I was just thankful that I met some really cool people along the way, some cool vendors, cool purchasers, cool agents, cool staff members, and I think I really, really appreciated that at the end of the day. It's probably the best part I could take away from that. sort of always maintained contact with those particular property managers, even though we'd sort of gotten rid of the investment properties and never had anything to do with them again. Not that you shouldn't not invest. Definitely look if it's definitely an option or you're thinking about it. Again, don't hesitate to ask.
This man's never not on, is he? Look at him. He's never not on.
I want to buy a house now.
It's such a cool thing. And some people have a really shit experience. And I really just hope that I can make that experience better or help and assist. Even if you're just having struggles with buying or selling and the agent's probably not, you want some clarity. I'd be willing to have a discretional conversation.
You already gave me advice before you went on air, and I'm like waiting to go home and talk to the missus.
Start
like,
realestate.com.
Potty. She's like, I don't give a fuck about that. Here's what we're going to do. We've got a plan in place.
This is our next step. This is it. I think I just like giving good advice. I think that's pretty cool. And in turn, that'll just earn its own business at the end of the day. It's just, if somebody says, hey man, what should I do with my life? I'm like, cool man, buy property. It's easy. Yeah. Just make sure you put some savings away. Get a good broker. That's rule number one. Make sure you insure everything you own because God forbid anything bad happens. Yeah. Contents insurance on investment properties is crucial because they don't cover floor coverings. So if they flood the house, you're screwed. So those sort of things, just small things that I've learned the hard way through other people and just watched some pretty tragic things. So I'm more than happy to help. I'm more than happy to help. It's a very fiddly thing. Buying, investing, selling, and it's not something that no matter how much you look into in your own personal research, you'll never really understand.
It's not experience.
Correct. Yeah, you just won't have a solid grip on what the hell is happening, what the conveyancers do, what the agent does, the steps behind the scenes that you don't even see. There's like 150 plus steps just to get your property on the market. Those sort of things, things to worry about, and those sort of things that that just you want a second opinion or just want a quick chat. Give me a call. Easy.
So everyone's heard. Hit him up, LJ Hooker.
Yeah, in Mawson Lakes.
Mawson Lakes, just here on the main street.
So how long have you been there for now?
This is only like just over a month actually, and it just came about because I had just the I guess the ability to catch up with the director there, Michael Fenn, and he's just the easiest and probably best way I could say is he's just a genuine lad. And his thing is just we're just good people doing good things, and you can't deny it. You genuinely can't. He is just a cool cat, a good man, just doing good things. And I think one of the most interesting things about him in particular, and I sort of like to sit back and watch before I just like eggs in the basket and all cards on the table is I just watched him sort of like reach out to myself and some of the other staff members that were new and coming from like maybe environments of a bit of toxicity as well too, that he would just check in and just say, hey man, how you going? How's everything going? Are you fitting in? Do you need anything? And I just that alone was like, fuck. What do I say? I've never had this.
Being a leader, bro.
Not being
a boss, being a leader.
Yeah, there's
you start questioning it because it's so rare. You're like, what is this guy? You're about to sack me?
I reckon I was probably going through I'm like, why? Like, are you going to credit me? Do I have to pay you back sort of thing? Like, the arts place is like, if you needed a new computer screen, cool, no worries. Next minute you're getting debited $400 out of your commission. You're like, fucking hell, the thing's like 80 years old. Like it's fucking Commodore 64 and
that's crazy. That's crazy.
It's just one of those things. It's like I just respect him as a human being and as a leader. And the fact that I came from somewhere that's got like 3 agents versus now a property specialist where it has 16 agents and they're all high functioning human beings with a caliber that's just unquestionable and second to none, and they're all wicked people, guys and girls across the board that are just all just genuinely good people, and they're just good people doing good things, and it really just resonates, and I just like being a part of them, even if it's just grabbing some lunch, that sort of stuff. I never really had lunch breaks at the last gig because I just didn't worry about them because I was like, there's nothing to do. I'll just quickly have a quick bite and just continue working. I actually just like catching up with these guys and grabbing some bow sliders across the road. It's just good. It was just cool.
It's a good work environment.
It's interesting how that makes you like. You go from a place where there is this like ruthless work ethic and whatever, and you feel like, I've got to keep up with doing it. Yeah. Then you go to a place that's got a way better culture and a way better environment, and you work harder. Yeah, you do. Because now you're like, I don't want to let this fucking team down. It's like
healthy competition, but at the same time, it's just like you feel driven because just these same people are driven too, and they just want to. At the end of the day, everyone just wants to put food on the table, and they're just. Like driven at the point where they're like, I'm not here to rip people off. I'm not here to do dodgy things. I'm not here to be $1 million agent or sell 100 homes just to be number one on the planet or whatever. It's just hey man, we just want to make sure we help with people's home aspirations and help them relocate and just make that transition extremely smooth for them.
Yeah.
just like if I was selling a treadmill or doing something else, you know, it's just such a rewarding experience. And I wish I could help more people every day as well too, doing that exact same thing.
And we need more of that in fucking every industry.
Every industry. If I want to go get my car serviced down at old Toyota again, I just want to be, when I walk in there, they're like, mate, what do you need? Just want to get, you know, some oil checked. I'm like, cool, do you need anything else? Like, is there anything else we can do to help? Oh, I don't know. Do you want to just check the wheel balance? And beautiful. Like, I'd love to have that experience every time.
Exactly.
It's costing them nothing. They have a multi-billion-dollar facility just sitting there. Why not just be like that? And they are. They're pretty good at old Toyota, I have to admit.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. When I recently went in, and it was just something small as like the guy was like, the customer service was amazing. Yeah. And he was like, oh, see here, we've got to do this and this. And he's like, and maybe it was a fucking pull on my leg, but he's like, oh, we'll do that for this much or whatever. And it ended up being less than what I originally got quoted.
Absolutely.
And I fucking remember that. I'm talking about it right now.
Exactly.
And it would have been cents of the dollar for them, like nothing. But to me, I'm like, I remember that customer service experience.
And in the back of your head, you'd be like, I want to go back there and I just want to see old mate Jim, the mechanic again, because he was fucking cool.
Yeah, exactly.
He's just a cool cat, just trying to do cool things for cool people. And I just like, I always remember that. I remember just being in Hawaii, just meeting some girl at a Sephora makeup shop with my partner, and we were just chatting to her, and she was just saying, hey, look, I know you guys from Australia. That's pretty cool. That's awesome. What do you guys want to do? I'm like, I just want to go look at cool things. Like, we don't drink or party. We just want to go like do some sightseeing. She's like, straight away, you got to go try this. She goes, I'm from the mainland. I'm not really from Hawaii, but when I came here, I did a whole bunch of things, and then got really into it and really liked it. So go give these a try. And they were like 10 out of 10 experiences, and I'll just never forget it because of those things. It was just like
just the effort that they put in to fucking give you that.
Spot on, basically. Just spot on. And I was just like, I just really enjoyed that. And every time I get a good experience like that, I even go, I don't leave 1-star reviews on Google. I just don't think that's
if you've got nothing good to say, don't say it at all.
Exactly right. And they could have just been having a bad day. And we just leave it at that. But every time I have a really, really good experience, I'll go out of my way and chuck a 5-star review up there. And I'll mention it several thousand times over, just because it's something. And I've been called after leaving a review saying, mate, thanks so much. We really, really appreciate that. You know, like, I'm so happy you had a good experience. I'm like, no, thank you. Thank you for just providing such a good experience that, like, I like to try new things all the time, but I'll come back to that.
Yeah, exactly.
Every 6 to 12 months. I'll come back to you because I just like the experience as well as the food or whatever service you supply as well too. So absolutely.
I've left one bad review ever. It was the Belgian Beer Cafe. It was about 2 years ago. We went there for lunch on a Friday. 2 fucking hours it took to bring our food out, and the chips were not even cooked.
Ridiculous.
That's rough.
Like, the chips were white, white.
No.
That is
and
rough.
they just didn't give a fuck either. Like, they didn't. There was no, like, you know, if that happens and they're like,
if it's a genuine reason like that,
but dropped it off. Like, you can see as he was dropping it off, and then just fucked off straight away. And I
just
was
no
like,
sincerity out of it.
I just left. Like, we'd on a work lunch, so we'd already like gone so far over our time for lunch just to wait for our food. And then
now you're back at 7 p.m. on a Friday night, just trying to, you know, make sure you cashing in everything you needed to do, and you're just like, fuck that idiot at the bar.
Didn't deliver that. So I put a review, and again, the thing that made me so mad is that they didn't reach out. Nothing. Not even a fucking mention
just
of it.
No
and I'm
acknowledgement
like,
whatsoever.
And we've never been back. We were going there consistently for lunches every couple of weeks because they were cheap and whatever. So you do expect you get what you for a cheap lunch.
Absolutely.
And a lot of them were what you expect, but you don't expect 2 hours and fucking raw chips getting delivered on your plate and then no follow up to that whatsoever.
Not a single like, hey, sorry, we're under the pump, we're busy. We're two cooks down or whatever it is.
Nothing. Just that's what you get.
Good luck. All the best.
So should we get into the questions?
I think we get into the questions, Stephen. We whip out some questions every time we have a guest on.
Right.
And it's a good set of, gets a good, well-rounded finish off to an episode. So fire up with question number one.
Blast off with number one. What's your favourite song of all time?
Shit. I'm like a bit of a weirdo because I could go from Slipknot to Tiesto to Eminem to, it's just a real combination.
So we always follow that up by saying you can work with a top 3 if you can't really think of one.
Top 3,
but then after you give us a top 3, we're going to be like, fucking pick one.
All right. I always go like before I forget for a Slipknot. That's just an absolute old school banger.
We haven't had a Slipknot.
That was my first ever walkout fight song before I forget. So I just won't ever forget that one.
And then got CTE and forgot.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
forgot he walked out to it.
Got to remind myself. Well, there's a couple of songs that I actually don't remember. And Immortal Technique and Diabolic do one called Frontlines, and that's an absolute fucking goer as well too. Actually,
Immortal Technique. That's a fucking thing I haven't heard of for a while.
That's just something a bit darker.
Yeah,
as
his
well,
shit's
too.
hard, man. He slaps. Yeah,
I love it. I can't get enough of it. I mean, like if I ever need to get pumped up and go to the gym, I'll just chuck some of his on. Or if I get real angry and just want to use rezone that energy, and then I'll just chuck Tiesto Adagio for strings, just because, just a real mellow out, no vocals, just leave me alone sort of thing. Just play that on repeat a few times over. There's half an hour done. Yeah, I don't know. But I would probably say at the moment, if you asked me to listen to one of those, I'd probably put Frontlines on just because.
Yeah,
cool.
That's just one
there
of those.
There you go. All right. It's funny that Adagio for String Strikes. I fucking love that song. I've got about 5 remixes in the archives of that song. Like a really fucking hardcore one. But one time I remember it distinctly. I was on Kangaroo Islands. My family's from KI, and my uncle was sitting there watching some black and white war movie. And obviously that's a song, like the tune of that is like an old, like, so there's like the saddest like war, like people dying, and then you can hear the, I'm like, that's fucking Tiesto.
Yeah,
I always remembered that.
No, it's a good song, and that's one of those ones. It's like an odd one. This is crazy. I like Lana Del Rey. She's got some incredible bangers. Mate, Gods and Monsters by hers. I don't know if you ever hear it or whatever, but it's a wicked tune.
Got some pipes.
Yeah,
some pipes.
Video games are my favorite by her.
Yeah, she's wicked. I don't know why. I'm just I could listen to almost anything.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much drum and bass. I don't know. There's something a little bit too repetitive.
What's funny, I was actually listening to something the other day. I'm not massive on it. Obviously, Pendulum, you would have liked.
Pendulum.
Pendulum. They're like a weird, but like I was listening. Did you ever listen to Netsky? Netsky, however the fuck you say it. It's like a British guy, but there's like 2 songs. And the funny thing was, I was playing it in the car, and then Winston really liked one of them. And we were home like a week later, and he's like, "Oh, Dad, that song," and then started doing the tune of it, and he did it pretty poorly, but I'm like, "That's the song," and I played it on the TV like to Erica, and I'm like, "Fuck yeah, kid's got an ear for it already."
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a musician.
All right, question number 2.
Whack it to him.
Fuck, I do this every time.
All right, do you want me to give it to him?
Yeah, go on, because I've forgotten again.
Who's your favourite comedian? Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be stand-up. It could also be a comedic actor as well.
Shit. I can't say I watch heaps of comedy, and if I did, I would never remember their names, but I do like Dave Chappelle. I think he's just that there's an old level of old school comedy in there that it's pretty harsh in a lot of ways, especially in this particular.
Yeah, but we need that, man.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's just like, well, that's life, and he calls it as he sees it. Like it is what it is.
Yeah.
And I think there's substance to his comedy as well too, and that I appreciate. If you chucked Carl Barron on there, great laugh, but
there's no depth.
There's nothing to it. It's just like it's such face value, and you kind of got to be like, okay. And I saw what's his name with the shaggy hair, and he used to date what's her name that kissed girls and liked it.
You're talking about Russell Brand.
Yeah, Russell Brand. I saw him live, and that was and I know people have actually said mixed things that they saw him live and absolutely hated it. And you just fell apart on stage. But I actually saw that, and that was actually pretty funny, and especially when somebody was heckling in the crowd, like he's just witness to it, like, and it was just a character, and I really
he's
enjoyed
a pretty good character.
He's my main news source now.
Yeah, he's full like spiritual now and like with it and
a handful of crystals all day, every day, sort of thing. Absolutely.
Yeah, but he's like. There's no such thing as, and not to fucking get too conspiratorial, because but he's about the only objective place that I can go to where he will explain both sides of a story and go, and then encourage people to give him feedback, and he'll actually, he say comment, and then he'll read comments and come back and discuss. I see some of you are saying these things, which, I mean, he's got over 4 million followers. What other person with 4 million followers cares about their comment section? But he's so, because he used to do, remember the Trues when he used to do the Trues back in the day? But now he's like, just trying to be as down the middle, which is not news anymore.
No.
News always leans to one side, and he's trying to be as down the middle as a can. And it's so refreshing to listen to someone.
Because that's like myself. People are like, what do you think about COVID? I'm like, try not to think about it too much. I don't really have an opinion on who gets vaxxed or who's not. It's, look, if you're happy and you're healthy,
that's what should matter.
Do whatever you want to do. If you don't want to get vaccinated, don't. You do, cool, easy. I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
The fact that they bury like genuine, like have your vitamin D, exercise, get out in the sun, do this,
do the bare minimums from just a standard health point of view.
But they bury that and they're like, get the vax. Just fucking get the vax.
Well, I had a nurse message me today, and she literally said that exact words. And I said to her, we've talked about this on the podcast all the time about the whole, when have you heard good health promoted throughout this entire 2-year span? And the thing that has annoyed me more than anything is that the dissenters, the people that are speaking up against that, are constantly dubbed as brain dead fucking idiots. So when a nurse messages me and echoes the same thing that we've been saying, it makes me happy because it's good to be vindicated because
cool.
I'm not a medical professional.
Absolutely.
But to hear a medical professional echo the exact same things that I have, it makes me go, then it makes me angry as well because I'm sick of this narrative of anyone who's cautious or concerned or wants to have a discussion about it is a fucking lunatic. And yet, you know, and that's the whole thing is that I don't, we've always said this when we talk about these kind of things, we don't want to be the crazy person screaming from the rooftop, but we should be able to have an open forum.
I think so, 100%. And I think there's a lot of like crowd that initially was like, I'm not getting vaccinated because I don't trust it, blah, blah, blah. Cool, no worries. And a lot of them have then gone vaccinated and then they've instantly just turned into like, oh, you may as well just go get vaccinated. I'm fine, I'm healthy, look at me. Cool, I'm glad you're healthy, happy and whatever. That's all fine as well. And there's just a big portion of people that are just like, still not sure yet. And I'm probably one of those people. I'm just still not 100% sure.
Yeah. We should have a right to be uncertain about things.
I think so. I think as a standard human right, I'm allowed to question what if and
well, another interesting thing that one of the nurses told me because she was telling me how she's 7 months pregnant on maternity leave already, so she's not client facing anymore.
Correct.
And they're trying to push her to get it because of the deadlines of the company, and she's like, I'm not having it when I'm pregnant and I'm no longer there. Like, and so then she's ended up having to fight for her employment sort of thing because she's like, if I have to get it when I'm back at work, then all right. But right now, why the fuck would I go and have it when I'm going to be at home?
Correct.
And if any of the other businesses or whatever don't want me to walk in there, then I deal with that myself. But right now, I'm not one of your employees that's a part. So it's that level of like push into people's lives.
I've always been a bit of advocate. If you try and force me to do something I don't want to do, I'm probably going to resent the idea a little bit more as well too. And I think that is probably just a common human behavior as well. So it's not something like I just automatically go like, oh, I'm just going to resent that now and I'm just going to do everything I possibly can to stop doing that. Unless you genuinely provide substance and win me over, then I just don't see the point. And that's the stuff. And if you keep going like trying to force it down my throat, I'm just going to go, look, I'm going to regurgitate all of this back up and I just don't want it.
Yeah. Well, the argument that I heard from someone that made me think about this stuff really a couple of years ago, and they said, where does that end? Where does this whole, they might be able to sell you on the benefits of this right now, which again, they're not doing a great job of for me personally, and it seems
free
like a lot
candy,
of other
isn't
people.
it? Get vaccinated and get $1 million.
Yeah, but at what point is it, and the thing he says, and again, the idea of where we're at now sounded crazy to me. When someone said, oh, yeah, they're going to be trying to push everyone to be getting, I was like, yeah, that seems a bit extreme. And we're here now. And what he said is like, when does it become, no, you need to take this pill because you're being a little bit like crazy. You're saying some things that we don't agree with. And now we're mandating that you need to have these stay on the straight and narrow. People are going to hear me say that and be like, that's fucking outrageous. How is it that much further than where we're at right now?
Well, I kind of get a little bit interested in the idea of like, say 12 months ago, I was like, vaccine me quick, hurry up and get a vaccine. I want to live a normal life. But then you kind of go, hasn't really affected us too much. And now you're kind of forcing this vaccine. You can't hear a couple of horror stories and you're not too sure if this is the right thing to do or not. And you're like, well, hold on, when was the last time we had a case sort of thing? And I'm like, do we really need it?
The case to death ratio is all out of whack, man. It's like a 99.97% survival rate for our age group. And it's just like, oh, it's almost more risk getting the vaccine than there is getting the fucking virus.
Exactly. I kind of like, well, grandma and granddad, they can go get it if they need it because, you know, they're a higher risk human being. And if they want to get it, I'm all for it. I'll support them every step of the way. And as long as they're happy and they become healthy or stabilized and if anything was to go a little bit pear-shaped and that sort of stuff. Like I'm in unfortunately, I'm in a bit of a high sort of weird environment where I'm dealing with also tenants and elderly and that sort of stuff. So I would kick myself if I ever, was to sort of inhibit somebody's lifestyle by, contracting it and passing it on. But I guess it's one of those things. It's like,
you can't live in a bubble.
No, spot on. It's just there. Sometimes it's just is what it is, and you can't do anything about it. I just accept it for what it is. So
and it's it's always been a thing for me is just that this encroachment on our lives where we feel like we're just slowly losing control of every aspect of it. That should scare the fuck out of everyone.
It does.
Like more than COVID, it should be like if you everyone should have a right to autonomy. And the argument against it is like, but if you want to live in this world, well, I don't want to. I don't want to live in a world where
martial law a little bit.
Yeah, exactly, bro.
How many sci-fi movies have there? Like, you look at 1984, the novel, or any of these sci-fi movies that we watch, we're like, wow, wouldn't like to live in this dystopia. And then we slowly see the things happening to us. Like there was a, I forgot to send this to you, but they literally, in Utah, they said, we're bringing out a new online ID. And in the fine print, it said, like, will contain things like social credit score, which is what's happening in China. And we all go, oh, well, that will never happen to us because we're not in a communist country. Well, in America, that's a fucking democracy. And if they're releasing this ID that's going to contain social credit score, we're not that far away.
No, exactly. But then at the same time, you've got places like Florida that are doing the complete opposite. They're saying, like, if a company like mandates the vaccine, it's illegal, like against state law, and the company gets sued by the state.
Which is good.
Which is what we fucking need.
It's almost like a level of freedom of speech, and that, I think that's just, again, it's one of those just bare things that we should be entitled to.
Do you know that we actually don't have, and we'll finish these questions quickly. We've gone on a bit of a tangent, but we don't have freedom of speech in our constitution.
Our constitution is like basically like old maritime English law. It's pathetic, bro.
That's crazy.
We basically have no rights here in Australia. It's ridiculous.
And we've said this, like, for me, we really feel like guinea pigs for what they want to do for the larger population countries, man. Like, it really does feel like they know that they can get away with more here because A, we're way too relaxed. B, we're too small.
We don't have guns.
We don't have guns anymore because what they fucking did to get rid of those. It's insane to me, man. And it's frustrating because, and for me, I kind of feel like I've had my tongue ripped out. My Facebook gets deleted from existence when I speak up against the concerns I had with the pandemic last year. You know, I wake up to it completely gone. And now I'm hesitant every time I want to say something. And I should have a right to speak up. If I'm not spitting hate speech or whatever, because when they promote the reason for censorship, it's always, we're trying to stop hate speech and whatever. Me saying, this kind of seems a little bit strange and I'm a little bit concerned. That's not fucking hate speech. I should be able to speak up about something that's concerning me and invite people to have an open discourse about it. If it turns into that and I start, like, if I try to have an open conversation, then all of a sudden I'm being racist and bigoted in the comment section. Then delete it. That's not what's happening. We're discussing, you know, just general concerns.
I do like sitting on the fence at the idea. Like, I don't really like to push my like moral views and that sort of stuff. It's just never a healthy thing, or political agendas and that sort of stuff. I like to sit on the fence and just see what other people like to say. And I know, like, you know, maybe if someone brings up a really cool, interesting point, I might research it a little bit further, or, you know, just ask a few people, like, what are your thoughts on that? You know, someone who's actually got, you know, some accreditation to what they're oozing out of their lips or whatever, you know, something like, you know, something that's just got substance to it. Again, I like to be a little bit more like a Switzerland, and I guess both sides probably hate me for it, but whatever, I don't care.
You just want to employ some critical thinking and not get like too far down either rabbit hole.
But we need more Switzerlands. That's the problem, though, man. Like, people are like, you know, and again, I try to operate as close to the middle of possible, or at least, again, understand both sides. And you know, of course, I do lean in one direction.
Just pitch reason. I think that's a lot of people are just unreasonable, and you pitch a bit of reason and you consider crazy, and they're not even too sure which side you're batting for yet. And you just like, you're literally just trying to defend somebody who's like, oh, look, I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but I'm just not too sure about a vaccination that has been produced in less than 6 months.
They hear that trigger word and they're like, oh, fuck it, anti-vaxxer.
And then that's it. And that's what really, I guess, upsets me about where we're at the moment, because we need to be unified more than ever. Absolutely. And yet this stuff is just dividing us straight down.
I think we should have just come together and fight fuel prices. I think that's the biggest mistake.
Oh, bro, this $1.90 shit can fuck off.
Is it expensive at the moment, is it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, fuel card. Mr. Fuel Card.
Mr. Fuel Card, company car over here.
Wow. Old freebies, eh? Thought I was doing well.
Yeah. Fuel card just goes in and like, fills up a jerry can and just leaves it somewhere, just for someone to pick up. He's got 10 jerry cans.
Gallons at the back, absolutely.
Just all right. What do we got?
All right, let's look at the next one. It does lead in. It does lead in.
Perfectly.
All right.
I know this one.
What's one conspiracy theory that you believe in?
Fuck. All right. Look, there's definitely aliens. I think. Look, it's definitely an age-old thing. I know the existence of the human being is like a 1 trillion to 1 phenomena, like at the end of the day, but there surely has to be this other pocket on billions of light years away that there is just life, and it could be just an alternative reality to us, where it's just a whole bunch of humanoid looking characters paying taxes and getting vaccinated. Like it's probably just like this exact same sort of thing. But like, I just feel like there's got to be something a little bit more out there.
100%, because there's that many planets, even in our own galaxy, that are in the Goldilocks zone, which means they have the same conditions as Earth. And then why wouldn't it? If evolution, if it's been around as long as Earth has, why wouldn't it have grown characters like us?
And what if like some of these planets, especially things that are, the ones that are getting, I couldn't name them obviously because it's not my forte, but the ones that are close to the sun, how do we know that a couple of billion years ago that they didn't have a life existence and now they're just big balls of fiery gas because they're too close and nothing can actually sustain that environment anymore except for those dumb lava crabs that just hang around volcanoes. Just a couple of dozen of those sort of things floating around.
But they could be intelligent. We don't know.
Yeah, that's right. They could be
just completely dumb.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows?
Just a crab.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's just probably the number one conspiracy theory I've probably had in the back of my head since I was like 5 years old. There's got to be aliens.
Yeah.
And if somebody finds them, cool. Well, come on down. Welcome to the party.
Yeah. Well, we could use an invasion right now. I'll tell you what.
I think the whole vaccination thing will go out of the way.
Oh,
we'll probably come together pretty quickly.
We would.
Well, look, and that's, I think that's, if they were going to kind of keep it under wraps, that would be the reason because nothing's going to unify a fucking human race like being something else that we've got to worry about.
They can come if they want as long as they bring a carton of CC and dry, we should be all right.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck yeah. Exactly. I've been over to CC and dry for a while.
It's been a while.
This Sober October's really
got him fucked up. Got him memorising about times that he was drinking.
All right,
let's hit him with the last question. Go on. Hit him with the last question.
The final question is, would you rather fight, and you've got the experience here as well, would you rather fight a horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses to the death? What's the easier fight?
I think the 100 ducks or the 100 horse-sized ducks.
Yeah.
I think it should be just soccer boots, just consistently.
Thank fuck, someone back on my team.
I just think a mega-sized duck is like, I mean, when you look at like ducks and you walk past them in the park and they start chasing you, the missus starts screaming and running.
Right.
Like, imagine something that's probably going to be about 400 to 500 kilos just chasing after you and who probably has a mighty peck on it. Like,
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think it'd be like just comparing them to just a whole bunch of like, Jack Russells. I mean, I'd probably survive 100 little Jack Russells, but just a good game of soccer. So, I mean, that's animal cruelty.
Of course.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Well, these are alien. Alien ducks
that are trying to invade you. But I think the 100 would just be pretty.
All right, you've got one on your team.
Finally.
It'd be like playing Call of Duty Zombies. You just kind of run to like an open space.
Yeah, just
fire
like
in a couple,
get them into a fucking
funnel them in.
Yeah, that's so good.
The way I think about it though is like if they're actually, this is why I always go the one horse-sized duck is because the muscle density, right? The muscle density of these little horses is still going to be fucking hectic.
You might stub a toe or two.
And you might, but also just because it's big, it's a duck. It's not going to have much go behind it. Let's be real.
I've seen kids get chased by ducks and be fearful.
It might be loud and aggressive, but I don't know. They don't look like the most mobile creature. But it's horse.
Look, I finally get someone on my side, and he's fucking having to try and justify.
But you do this every time.
No, I agreed last week because the argument that I've started to see, and it's kind of getting away from the essence of the question, which is what is an easier fight. But my brother and our guest last week both said, well, I want that trophy of that big duck. It might be a harder fight, but I'm mounting that duck's head on the wall. Yeah. And I do agree with that. It's not as glorious just fucking frog stomping a bunch of little fucking duck-sized horses. So I do get from a glory perspective, I'm probably gonna try and take on that duck as well.
In saying that, I kind of go like it's a bit more of a kill or be killed situation. So that kind of makes it a little bit more exciting.
Go for the Israel Adesanya duck.
Yeah. I think, do you get weapons or you
we've not even thought about that. Maybe it's a gladiator style thing where they leave a couple of spears around. If you've just got a good sized spear and
a machete, I think I'd take the big duck any day of the week. But if you go on bare hands, I wouldn't even know the first way to tackle a duck. I mean, you probably want to go for the legs and, hopefully, it becomes immobilized a little bit and you can get on the back.
It wouldn't have, just because it's big, it wouldn't have good legs.
No.
They already have shit legs. But then again, how muscly are those legs carrying that weight of a duck?
How much bone is in that duck leg?
We're really getting into the...
I mean, how hard... I mean, the other question would be, how hard would it be to break a horse's leg? I mean, it'd be quite similar in size.
But if people are that scared of a duck this size, right, imagine a horse. Horses can be pretty aggressive.
But I'm not scared of a duck that size.
No, but kids
but you
are.
were just saying, you were just saying,
the missus screaming
and shit. Yeah. But people are, somewhat frightened by ducks. Imagine if it was 100 and they were horses.
I don't know. There's something about maybe an 8-foot pterodactyl-looking duck. Probably go a little bit. Okay, this is getting a bit prehistoric.
That beak is just like the size of the fucking Starship Enterprise. That thing's fucking massive. All right, let's wrap up. We've nearly done fucking 2 hours, man.
That's a good one, though.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's been this hour and 40 has fucking flown by. So
sorry
it's been An absolute fucking pleasure. Yeah. Obviously, get down to fucking LJ Hooker.
Yeah, if you, get down there.
Use the code Wormholes on the LJ Hooker store and
10% off.
He'll buy us a carton of beer. That's what we've just agreed to on his behalf without discussing it for him.
Carton of beers, every referral.
All right, excellent.
All right.
Thank you so much, man.
I appreciate it. No, thank you, James.